Hello and welcome to another daily Leetcode challenge. Let's begin question 435, non-overlapping intervals. So, given an array of intervals where interval I is a nested array with start and values, return minimum number of intervals you need to remove to make the rest of the intervals non-overlapping. And we're given a couple of examples. 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 1, 3. And it's pretty clear that if we were to remove 1, 3, which is this one, we would have a non-overlapping interval 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4. And so the explanation is 1, 3 can be removed and the rest of the intervals would not be overlapping. Okay, so I think so I guess the question is how do we pick out which intervals should be removed? How do we pick out which intervals should be removed, given that we could just remove an interval and leave in. Is this not the same as what if we remove an interval and like 1, 3, what if we just remove 1, 2, 2, 3? Well, it's asking us to remove the minimum number of intervals. So in this case, it's definitely just easier to remove 1 than remove 2. So what if we had a property of the input interval array such that while we're iterating over it, we are while we're iterating over it, we're only concerned with the intervals that have already. No, this is not making sense. I understand that one of these, either this or these two intervals, should be removed, but I don't understand what logic would make these stay here rather than these, unless I somehow am sure that I include this one into the interval list, and then I'm presented with a decision of whether I include this or this, right? Because if I was to, for example, sort these intervals in ascending order by the end of the interval, so 2, 3, 3, and 4, if I was to include the initial one, the 1, 2, I'm then tasked with a more simpler solution, or with a more simpler question. Do I just include this, or do I remove the previous one that I've already included and replace it with this interval? Okay, so let's try that. Let's try sorting the intervals by the end of the interval. And this can be done with a simple sort. So each array has a method called sort, and you can actually choose by which element you would like to sort them by, or quote unquote compare. So I have just sorted my intervals based on the ending on the end of the interval. So we have 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 3, 3, 4. And now I'm thinking that if I was to go with what I proposed, that we go through each of the intervals and make sure that and see which want to include or extract or not include, let's have the count be set to 1 and previous interval set to 0, and then for I in range from 1 to len intervals, let's say that if let's have cur start is going to be intervals I 0 and prev end intervals prev I 1 if cur start is greater or equal to prev end, then I'm going to say prev interval is equal to I. Let's call this current interval. Prev and count plus equals. And this way we have identified all the intervals that we want to include. And by just simple math, the ones that we want to include plus the ones that we don't want to include equals the length of all of the intervals. So what we can actually do to find the length of the ones that we don't want to include is return n minus count. Let's see if this works. And we seem to be doing fine. Awesome. And we seem to be on the right track. Let me make these a bit less verbose. Since these values are only used once, it's totally fine to just remove them from having to need variables. Let's submit this one more time, and let me go through the logic one more time. I want to simplify my, I want to simplify my decision making, the need to make a decision by putting a property on this intervals list. I want this interval list to have the intervals sorted in ascending order by the end of the interval. Because having that be done, I will, as I'm iterating over the intervals, I am always looking at the next possible interval that I can either add or exclude, meaning that the ones that I've already iterated over, they have been already either included or excluded. And so in this situation, if I was to, for example, have two intervals that start with something and end with the number 2, it really wouldn't matter for me which one of those two intervals I choose. It just matters that I choose one of them, and in this case, the previous is predetermined to be the most first one, and then my decision goes on to other intervals. If the next one was to end with a 2, I would know that the start of that interval would not meet my conditions, so I would exclude it, and so on until I meet one that has a start that is bigger or equal to the previous's end. And with that approach, I'm iterating over the whole interval list and picking out only the ones that I want. this does not have a chance to hit like a local maximum because um, because of that property of the interval list being sorted. Okay, and with that, I guess I want to end and say that please like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video, hopefully tomorrow. Bye.